So um, this session is highlighting something that is called Declarative Paradigm, which is discussing how your code will look for future maintenance and editing. So the current default or behavior that we always tend to use is called imperative programming. And the single responsibility principle is kind of what is encouraged by the declarative paradigm more than the imperative programming. So the definition of a declarative programming is, I wrote this simply of how I understand it, which is simply writing code that encapsulates the entirety of how it works without actually going into details of how it happened. And the imperative programming is writing code that the only way to know what it means is by tracing each line. One of three key differences that might encourage someone to go with declarative rather than imperative. The first one is what it focuses on, and as we discussed, that it focuses on what is the result of this code. You can simply, by just looking at the code, you will actually know what it does, what is the result of that. And imperative programming is focusing more on how rather than what it does. And I have an example of how is this work. Like a real life example is if someone told you to do something and asked you about the result. If you kept explaining how did you do it without actually mentioning the result, you will end up making him trying to figure out the result in the end, what is going to happen. Like you went to the bank and you applied the correct papers and you did this and that, so you can tell him that it succeeded in the end. But if you are working with declarative, you will only say, hey, I succeeded at doing this. The level in coding is, for example, we all know the repository pattern. We have repository classes. So you can't have a repository using another repository. It doesn't really fall in. They are in the same level, so they don't really use each other. They have to use other things, smaller blocks than they are. So the level in declarative is easier to detect. When you write code in a declarative way, you can figure out which level you are in without actually doing so much tracing. Rather than in imperative, it's very hard to detect, as you're actually trying to figure out the result of the code, so you can figure out in the end what level this code is. The features, if you're writing code in declarative, you will find that each declarative entity is already separated from all the code, and um, you can just extract it and use it elsewhere in other project or in other block of code. Um, Unlike imperative, you can just try to trace each line and see where your code ends, so you can extract that afterwards. This is a code example of the many details that this it does have a lot of details, so you can just trace each one of these lines, like the name. You can find that there is a border text field, and after a while of reading this, you can get the idea what this is. But this is just one line that really encapsulates what's this code is about, and it's easier to read, easier to figure out what level this code might be. So this screen, this UI screen is completely written in just this block of code. You can see that the single responsibility of this method is just positioning the items. You can find that this is a column. You can find that there is a padding between these lines. Yeah. And you can find that the same order that you have your elements are in the same order that is on the UI. So you can detect that they are on the same level from just by looking at the code. You can find that they are on the same level of the column. Same goes here. We're going to zoom in on the elements. The first card is the facility details card. You can find also that the single responsibility of this is positioning the items. Also, same order as well. You can find that they are all on the same level. Here, we're also in the first item, which is also the responsibility is to position these two items. The single responsibility of this widget is to handle its states, which might be the change if the value changes or I have an initial value. So now here we have we are in the place of work for this detail. We shouldn't really try to minimize the code here because we are in the detail itself right now. Same goes inside the widget itself. You can find that it's also a composite of two other widgets having the same responsibility of positioning, and also it does other things. So while going into details, you shouldn't really try to separate everything. It could be good, but as your code goes, this is the only block. It just means here that the facility type dropdown is going to be used as a a whole block. So separating things unnecessarily will, while each one of them can be used separately, it could be okay. But if they are only working together, it's better to have it also and handling its state in the same place. So the tips and tricks to actually get to write the declarative code is that you start by the smallest component, a feature or a widget. Um, like building blocks, you can start by this and fill it out until you have this, and then you have this big screen. If you started by this big screen, you'll find that the code of the very small block is all in this screen. But if you started here, you will find that less and less code is introduced in the screen. By you reach the screen, you will find that you're only positioning your items there. You can take your time while building these smaller blocks, because after a while, you will find that it's easier to maintain and edit this small block of code instead of searching for it in this screen. So you have to name your blocks according to scope. Notice that I didn't use loft-borne door here because it doesn't really describe what this door is. And it might add something specifically used for loft-borne, while I can actually use it for Maya's cat's shop. So this can be specific to loft-borne because it does something for loft-borne that will not be beneficial for Maya's cat's shop.
Okay, but this is actually getting a conflict with the concept of generics components, right? Because generics components can be used everywhere. Doesn't have to be specific to anything. So it's actually, you configure your components to be generic, and then you can put it anywhere, and it will work and behave, depends on the data that is passed to it, right?
Yeah, so this one is generic, right?
Yeah, but you said it doesn't work with Maya's shop, as long as it still can work with Maya's shop.
It works.
It's a generic door, right?
Yeah, it works with Maya's shop because she has an orange door as well. So I can use this there, but I cannot use a loft-borne door on Maya's shop because it doesn't make sense to Maya to have a loft-borne door.
Okay.
So naming according to scope, if it's very basic setup, just name something that is also very basic, like describing the shape, describing the color if it's constant. So if you have a very basic element, you have to have a basic naming. But if you have a complex element that only applies to loft-borne, you have to name it something that is specific or unique to loft-borne, like loft-borne gate, loft-borne mansion, because as big as this, it's not usable anywhere else. So there is a game, if everyone wants to play a game.
Yes.
Okay. So the game is a competition between two teams. We will be introducing two block of codes. One is imperative and one is declarative. And each team will try to assemble these elements on the wall as they understand from the code. as fast as they can.
Organizing the
Okay.
codes.
So
You will
the two
assemble the
pieces-
UI elements.
But the two
on the screen.
the codes are imperative or declarative?
Yeah, someone will lose. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So this
Do
is
we
just to
choose
show
which
you.
code we are going to?
Yeah, this is just to show you how easy it is to read the declarative code than an imperative code,
Makes sense.
and make sure that you.
Who
Okay.
would be okay? So who would be the loser team? It's already predefined.
Okay. So each team will get these. You can manage this by yourself, but I really recommend that the team that gets this will have just one assembler or someone that will assimilate this on the screen.
Explain it.
Okay.
No, not the game. The guy that can come out is gonna explain it.
He will assemble the UI
That
elements.
component. Try to assemble the component.
You only need 2 people.
Two people, but each one will have.
Have a team.
Represent two.
Yeah.
There are 14 here and 14 here elements, but they are not all elements. The last one is not because I wanted to keep the glue of the last one. So 13 here and 13 here. So I guess, okay, I will choose team captains. You can choose,
Your team.
yeah, choose your team, give them the elements. And when we start, you will read the code and you try to, you will try to ask people so you can get the elements. Who has this and who has this.
Okay, so maybe Magdi
You
and
can-
Walid can stand up,
Yeah,
and then Magdi, choose your team.
بسلم عليك عادي
you can give them elements, okay?
So after we give them the elements, they will just assemble.
You will assemble, okay, or choose someone from your team to assemble. You can all assemble.
Yeah,
It's up to you.
Yeah, teamwork. Yeah.
Okay, it's up to you.
But choose your team first. Actually.
Which one is
Okay.
Just give the.
which one?
Oh yeah, each one will just
I
one.
have just
one
one
piece.
component and I will assemble it.
Yeah. Okay.
I chose eight.
اسمع.
اللي بيشوفه.
طبعا اصلا
وتشوز حد تاني.
حتى الاسامي بتاعت الايكونز اللي مش باينه ورا.
ايوه
شباب عم يشرح.
لسه هيختار.
ايوه
بعد عيد. ما هو يعني بقية الناس مش أصلا على تيم.
طب بسرعه بقى بسرعه.
اختار على طول. اديله الستيكي نوتس بقى.
طبعا سنه جديد
يعني هو يبتدي يوسع
يوزع بسرعة.
معانا يا عم
هو أنت كان ممكن تعملهم لونين مختلفين يا ممدوح عشان كده الناس تتفرج.
انا عملت اللي عليا والله فكرت
والله
كتير أوي.
أيوة بس مش كده.
كل واحد يفتكر
هو كل واحد يفتكر كل واحد فاكر مين اداله ورقة. انا ما عنديش في حد لسه ما عندوش كارد؟ احمد عمر معاك كارد؟
خلوا بالكم الناس المفروض يبقوا معانا الوقت كله عشان نعرف
لا ما هو هنشوف
So we must detect the inverted component, right?
Yeah.
حد لسه حد لسه
لا تمام.
Are you انت خلصت؟
خلاص هتخلي بالك
هتخلي دول معاك؟ Everyone is ready?
يس
Okay.
طب احنا declarative ولا imperative؟
You can assemble on the wall here.
يعني خلوها لي هنا وانت
ما تجمعوا
حطها ناحية الثانية بقى
ايوه معانا
الفيديو الأول.
انا معايا السيرش يا مجدي اعكسها ضروري يا مجدي
ايه ده؟
مجدي ضروري اكيد بعد كده السيرش
حد معاه جول كده الوينج بتاعه ممكن
او حطها بالطول بس عشان ما ابقاش انا بعترض كنت بعد ده هو اللي عليه الدور هو هيبقى تحت هنا صح كده